Hello everyone, this is Jack. Well, in this video I'm going to share 5 seed growing tips that will change your life. These are the techniques that I use to grow my seedlings. So let's get started. Tip number 1, the growing medium. To start my seeds, I use organic potting soil mix, which I keep in this big container. And I'll show you why this big container comes in handy as well. I also use compost that I make myself and coconut coir. I use a mixture of 70% potting mix, 20% compost, and 10% coconut coir. Now the seeds contain enough nutrients for the seedlings to start growing, at least up to 1 inch or 2 sets of leaves. So you don't need to add any additional fertilizers. Excess fertilizers can also burn plants and stop seeds from growing too. So the amount of nutrients that's in compost and potting mix is just enough to start your seedlings. Now I use these 32 cell trays to start my seeds. I also use a catchment tray at the bottom of this to catch any excess water. Now this is where this big tote comes in handy. I just place my seed starting tray right in there, and then I scoop all the seed growing medium right in the tray. And any excess growing medium just goes right into the tote. This way I don't spill any growing medium. I just use my hand to distribute the growing medium evenly in all the cells and scrape away all the excess growing medium. Tip number 2, when to start your seedlings. Now that depends on your last frost date and the kind of vegetable plants you're growing. Some vegetable plants take much longer to grow than the other, so you want to start some vegetable plants earlier than the other. Now that the zone that you live in plays a very important role. That tells you what is your last frost date. I'm near Sacramento, California. Our zone is 9 and our last frost date is towards the end of March. So I transplant my seedlings outside towards the end of March or beginning of April. Tomatoes and peppers take much longer to grow, so I start my tomatoes and peppers first in January. So I want to get at least 2 to 3 months of growth before I plant them outside. I then move on to starting flowers, okra, eggplants, cucumbers. I plant my squashes and pumpkins the last, because squash and pumpkins only take about 7 days before they're ready to plant outside. You can even direct seed squashes and pumpkins in your garden as well. And I made a video on 15 vegetable plants you can direct seed in your garden as well if you're interested. So I grow my seedlings in batches. Every 2 weeks I have a new batch of seedlings that I start growing. Today I'm starting some okra seeds. So let's make a little space in our cells to plant these seeds. And I plant about 2 seeds in each cell, just in case one of them does not grow. I have insurance and I can thin them later. This way, none of the space in the cells go to waste. Then I use any kind of bottle that fits in these cells to press down on the growing medium. This way, most amount of growing medium will be in touch with the seed, and that's what you want. You want that seed to get all the contact from the soil so that it gets enough moisture and nutrients to start growing. I then take some coconut coir and then sprinkle some coconut coir right on top of these cells. Now this is very important. Coconut coir is very good at retaining moisture, and there's one more thing it does, and that's coming up later as well. I then press it down one more time and the seeds are ready to grow. Tip number 3, heat. Now seedlings grow the best between 70 degrees Fahrenheit to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 21 degrees Celsius to 26 degrees Celsius. If you maintain this temperature, you will have a very high success rate in germinating your seeds. And what I do is I use these heat mats. These retain heat underneath these trays and provide enough heat for these seeds to start growing. So our newly planted tray goes right on top of the heat mat. My sensor is reading 76.6 degrees Fahrenheit soil temperature for my seedlings, which is perfect to grow the seedlings. Tip number 4, sunlight. Now I grow my seedlings on this movable shelf right next to a window in my garage, and they get proper amount of sunlight to start growing. Now since I have all of my seed growing trays on this movable shelf, on the days it's nice and sunny outside, I just move my entire shelf out in the sun, and all of my seedlings enjoy natural sunlight. This way I don't have to spend money on artificial lighting. At night I just move the entire tray back into the garage. Tip number 5, watering. Now you want to keep your seedlings moist at all times. You don't want to waterlog your seedlings, and you don't want them to dry out either. The consistency of the potting mix should be equal to a wrung-out sponge, which is not too wet and not too dry either. So how do you achieve that? Well, that's where adding that layer of coconut coir on top comes in very handy. Let me show you. Now I watered these seedlings yesterday and they seem to have enough moisture, and I can see that the growing medium is still wet. Now check this out. This was watered day before yesterday, and the coconut coir on top starts to dry out, and it's very easy to see coconut coir when it dries out because it turns light brown, and that's when you want to water again. There's some cells that have some moisture, but there are a lot of cells that are beginning to dry out. So Let's add some water. Well, here's another bonus tip. When I water my seedlings, I use lukewarm water. Just lukewarm to touch, about 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 36 degrees Celsius. You don't have to be too specific, just a little bit warm to touch. That keeps the seedlings warm and helps to increase the germination rate as well. Well, if you follow these 5 tips, you can increase your germination rate by 95%, and you can keep these plants alive all the way until the last frost date and plant all of these nicely grown plants in your garden in spring. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in another video.